All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming this morning, or I guess this afternoon now, to the Central Virginia Regional Housing Partnership's first event of our fall speaker series. Today we're going to be having a regional housing roundtable. I guess before we kick everything off, I want to just take a second to thank our sponsors, Dominion Energy, the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors, Bama Works, and the University of Virginia Community Credit Union.
So our guests today, folks, are pretty much rock stars in this field of expertise. We'll have Dr. Stacy Pepe, Alex, how do I pronounce your last name? I don't want to mess it up.
Ikefuna.
Ikefuna, thank you. Douglas Miles and Jim Friedl. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give each one of these folks an opportunity to introduce themselves, where they are from and their work. And maybe just a little bit of, has the Regional Housing Partnership up until this point done anything or helped them in their jurisdiction? So Alex, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. Sir, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Keith. It's good to be here. My name is Alex Ikefuna. I'm the interim director of the city's Office of Community Solutions. We're responsible for redevelopment activities within the city, housing and grants administration and related services. In terms of how the Regional Housing Partnership has benefited the city, awareness, the city council, the planning commission, those vested with the authority of making decisions in terms of land use, transportation, and housing. They've come to terms in terms of awareness that local action alone is not going to be enough to address the affordable housing crisis we have. So there is an outlook now that a regional cooperation, regional partnership, collaboration is going to be a critical component of addressing the affordable housing. So awareness element is one of the benefits of this regional concept.
Thank you, Alex. Jim, you're to my left on the screen anyway, so I'll let you jump in next.
Absolutely, thank you. My name is Jim Friedl. I am the planning director and zoning administrator in Greene County. Have been in that position for about 3.5 years. I would agree with Alex. The support that we've received from the regional partnership has been quite helpful. We're in the process of developing refining our comprehensive plan, and the public input, the support that we received, the networking we received, and the data from the regional housing study are all invaluable as planning tools moving forward. And then especially the county specific information that they assisted us in obtaining. Additionally, I think Alex made an excellent point. The regional approach, the regional housing partnership is critically important, because as a region, we're tied together economically, which means people commuting back and forth from jobs. And also the housing issue is a regional issue because the affordability in Charlottesville impacts Fluvanna, and impacts Greene, and vice versa.
Thank you, Jim. Just a little on a personal note. My wife is from Austria, and my mother-in-law's first name is Friedl. So that you know, spelled exactly the same way. Interesting. Stacy, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm Stacy Pepe. I'm the housing policy manager for Albemarle County. So I do a lot of housing related stuff, except for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That's a different group. With the Regional Housing Partnership, they've been really instrumental in bringing a diverse group of interests to the table to talk about housing. I think there's a lot of discussion, particularly within the city and Albemarle County, about the need for affordable housing and how that's impacting all kinds of areas in our communities, economic and transportation and schools. But those conversations have often been disconnected. And so this is a great way to bring everybody to the same table and begin to hash out the problems and find ways we can work together.
Thank you, Stacy. Last but not least, happens to be my home county. Douglas, you're up next.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, so I'm going to echo a lot Jim said. I'm Douglas Miles at Fluvanna County Community Development Director. I'm Planning Director and Zoning Administrator. But since I've started here in July of 2019, and right after that, joined and worked with the TJPDC in August to do the regional housing chapter for Fluvanna and the regional, the overall regional housing project that was going on. And it's very beneficial for us now because we're, just like Jim said, we're finalizing and working on our comprehensive plan and bringing some of that information to our residents and working with the developers in housing that we have here. We're about 96-97% single family housing here, and we have projects that are coming on board now in Colonial Circle with 124 apartments, things like that. So we're entering kind of this new era for us, which is great for getting affordable workforce housing project type requests. And in the future, obviously the Zion Crossroads area and working with Louisa and the TJPDC staff is where we're going to see more of that type of growth. So thank you, Keith.
So Douglas, I'm going to continue along with you a little bit because our second set of questions were kind of dubbed and you kind of walked us right into it. So thank you so much. The next set of questions we're going to ask is kind of talk about some ongoing projects or some future projects that might be coming up. And in particular, if you wouldn't mind talking about that apartment complex on that, that's a big thing. Did they not also get some sort of tax waiver or something like that, so it will actually not exceed a certain AMI? Would you share a little bit about that, please, Doug?
Sure, Keith. Yeah, we're in the midst of that right now. So basically, right before I got here, just a quick backstory: the Colonial Circle project in June of 2019 was rezoned, and that it includes 325 housing units and about 81,000 square feet of commercial. And for everyone's knowledge, it's at the corner of basically 53 and Lake Montello Road as you on 53 before you go into Albemarle. So it's right at our new roundabout there. Yes, and it is 50 to 70% AMI.
Really?
And currently working with the developer, which is Pinnacle Construction, Bill Park, and Bo Carrington at 7 Development. And this proposed development will be very similar to Brookdale in Albemarle. So that's the model and that's the style of the apartment units and the clubhouse and pool and rec areas. So so we're currently working with the 2 gentlemen I mentioned on bringing that to our EDA and to the board for the performance agreement. And then we're also working on the overall infrastructure and layout of that area. So that's our main project that I would really like to talk about for this. And then eventually we're hoping to see in the next few years some of that as our water and sewer comes online in Zion Crossroads, just to see some of that activity up in that area as well. Yes.
So those who may be listening or watching, and they can look into the Planning District Commission's website, but Louisa County and Fluvanna County and Zion's Crossroads are working in a joint plan to work together on that. You want to talk a little? That's pretty cutting edge. You want to talk a little bit about that, Douglas, or would you prefer to defer a little bit later on that conversation?
Maybe later on we get some.
Okay.
But
sure.
It is our main project, and we've been doing a lot of transportation work with Kittleson and Associates and VDOT, Chuck Proctor, and everything. But I understand that basically, Tom England's not here, but if I can speak briefly for him, there's activity of Zion Town Center and some other areas behind the commercial projects there where they're working with, I believe it's Chris Henry's group out of Stony Point Development in the city and Albemarle area. So we're already seeing in the Zion Crossroads area some initial growth and development that we'd like to see eventually on our side. But yes, we're very excited for that region, working with Louisa and us. So.
Well, I'm super excited about it to see both counties working together to try to grow that area. Jim, you've got some exciting stuff happening in your county. You want to share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. In a simple summary, in the last year, either recently approved or site plans that are being submitted to move forward, we have about 700, 800 units coming online. It's a mixture of market rate apartments, senior restricted apartments, independent living apartments, townhomes, so a lot more multifamily or missing middle housing that Greene County hasn't had in the past. Additionally, we have a project that went through a rezoning to become more marketable, and we've already received some site plan submissions on that for 1,100 homes, mixed, single family, detached, single family attached, and townhomes. So we have a lot of activity going on. We also approved a PUD with the focus on having a portion of that as a job creator, because one of the key priorities to affordable housing, especially in Greene and the outlying counties, is the fact that commuting, saving money on a house and then commuting, usually it eats up the money you've saved on the house. So you have to have local job opportunities for people to be successful at achieving an achievable affordable housing goal.
So a little follow-up to that. So your residents, just kind of a little snapshot of what the concerns were during these process, and kind of how either you or the developer or the county attacked those concerns, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. I think the one concern that's actually opposing concerns that we hear, all of us here in all of our communities, is everybody wants affordable housing. And they're 100% behind affordable housing until it actually is proposed. And then there are concerns, legitimate concerns about density and too much growth. So those two community desires are in opposition with each other. In Greene County, again, our focus is trying to create local job opportunities, to create more affordable housing opportunities, less commute costs, but also within the growth area, we do support housing projects that are in the growth area, have the infrastructure that is part of the growth area, and also match the other goals that are within the comprehensive plan. So we didn't receive a tremendous amount of pushback on these projects because they're all proposed within the growth area, right around the 2933 Crossroads.
Thank you, Jim. Stacy, you've got some exciting stuff and happening in your county, because I can never reach you, so that means you're working all the time. So what's going on? Or you just don't want to talk to me. That might be the case, but in either case, what's going on in your neck of the woods, Stacy?
Yeah, so we have a couple big affordable housing projects going on. I think the one that is probably the most well known is the Southwood redevelopment project. And so that is turning the existing Southwood mobile home park into a mixed income, mixed use community. The first phase is underway, and that's going to include approximately 281 affordable units, and that includes Habitat for Humanity homes, as well as the low-income housing tax credit property with Piedmont Housing Alliance, as well as some market rate home ownership opportunities that will be in there as well. And the second phase, which is just I shouldn't say. I think it's ready. The application for rezoning may be coming in soon if it hasn't just been received. That will approximately double the number of units overall. And again, more heavily to the affordable housing side than the market rate side. We also recently approved a development on 29 North, another mobile home park that's being redeveloped. That will include approximately 190 affordable units. So about 75% of the housing units to be built are going to be affordable low-income housing tax credit units. Those are the ones that are sort of out there and ready to go. I'm sure we have some things in the pipeline that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but we're really on other activities. We're working to make it easier to build affordable housing and to support developers to do so. So we're about to embark on a comprehensive plan update, updating our zoning codes to help bring those two together to work better. And I am working with a group of developers to come up with a package of incentives that will help them reach sort of the deeper affordability level. So below 80% AMI, around that 60% AMI range.
So kind of a follow-up question, the same I asked Jim, you know, what was some of the hurdles from the resident side of it, and how did we kind of overcome them? I think your affordable housing policy was a big step forward to that. You might want to talk a little bit about that for the few people who may not know what that is.
That was the biggest project I did for 2 years, huh? And I forgot all about that. So we did, the board adopted a new housing policy in July. And that's really a comprehensive approach to housing development throughout the entire county, focusing on affordable housing. And that really sort of set goals and proposed different projects and programs and methods of achieving those housing goals. And through that process, we did a lot of community engagement and made an effort to reach out to low and moderate income households who are often left out of those community meetings due to time constraints and budget constraints and just not having the confidence to speak up during those meetings. And so through that, there was pretty much generally accepted that we need more affordable housing in the county. It's just too expensive and people are having to move away. But again, as Jim explained, they clash with other desires. So when an affordable housing project is proposed, you have there's too much density, there's going to be too much traffic, you're taking away trees. And so it's really trying to manage expectations on both sides, really. And that's a tricky road to walk sometimes.
So a little bit of education and constant re-education. Alex, I almost hate to even ask this question, but what's happening in the city? So,
well, as you guys know, the city of Charlottesville, as far as the region goes, is like ground zero for affordable housing and the housing issues. You know, there are a lot of things going on in terms of projects under construction, in the pipeline, future outlooks. We've got a massive redevelopment initiative by the Housing Authority, wholesale renovation of the Christian halls, which is about 100 units plus. It's going on right now. Phase 1 of the South First Street. It's got 2 phases on that street, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is under construction right now. And then, of course, the 6th Street is also another Housing Authority project. We just had a development review team, the city's development review team meeting on that project this morning. And we're looking at probably another public conference and site plan conference for that project next month. That is more than the 6th Street. When it's done, more than 100 units. And of course, we have the Friendship Court. That is a massive project, 4 phases. built out, you'll be looking at anywhere between 450 and 480 units. Phase 1 is scheduled to, construction work is scheduled to start probably in the next few months. It's going to be about between 120 and 130 units, I believe, for that first phase. So we are looking forward to that. And there are also a couple of projects under discussion with the Planning Commission right now. It's been undertaken by PHA. They are Park Street Christian School project, which will be for senior citizens, about 50 units. And then, of course, the old marker site, which is on Park Street, close to 250. That is being discussed right now by the City Council. All these projects I've mentioned so far are predominantly affordable housing project and light tech project as well. The CRHA, Friendship Court, the city has got a massive investment in those two projects. And of course, from the private side, we've got a 240 Streamlined, which has been through the Planning Commission, is still pending. If we can have some kind of decisions in terms of infrastructure improvement. So there is internal discussion right now in terms of infrastructure component of that project. It's about 170 units. The city is discussing with the project developer the issue of sidewalk related to the project and other infrastructure components. Of course, the Dairy Central is almost nearing completion. I think they've started taking applications. That is more than 100 units out there, and about 15 to 20 units of that project is dedicated to affordable housing. Of course, we also have 218 West Main, which is between 50 and 58 units. It's got through the approval process, and there is a conference meeting on this in terms of the site plan, which is scheduled soon. And in addition to this, as some of you may know, the Planning Commission on October 12th approved our comprehensive plan, which is a massive revision of the 2013 comprehensive plan with some amendments. So they recommended that to the City Council. City Council is scheduled to discuss that probably either at their second meeting in November or in December. A lot of the membership of the City Council and the Planning Commission, they have expressed interest in terms of adopting that comprehensive plan by the end of the year, so that we can begin the zoning rewrite. There is a major change in this comprehensive plan. The city has about 16,000 parcels, and in terms of the zoning of these parcels, between 60 and 70% of the single family designation, it's what we have in the city of Charlottesville. In essence, you can build duplex or triplex in the single family zones. So this comprehensive plan update essentially made a major revision that on a single family lot, you can get up to 2 or 4 units if you have ample space to accommodate that. So that is a major shift from the current comprehensive plan to the one that was approved by the Planning Commission last week. So if Council ratifies the recommendation of the Planning Commission, then we are hoping that in the future, these new changes is going to provide an ample opportunity for development of affordable housing, workforce housing, and other housing for folks that make more money. The other aspect of what we are doing in terms of changes is the city has commissioned a study on inclusionary zoning. We're expecting that it's going to be done early next year, and that will help to inform the rewrite of the zoning ordinance. So these are some of the things going on in terms of affordable housing development, and then the changes in existing regulation in order to address the housing crisis we have locally.
Thank you, Alex. And you kind of segued me into the next series of our next question I wanted to ask. The Regional Housing Partnership is just about ready to embark on its strategic plan. And since I have the four of you looking at me, it would be a great help to kind of help us move forward in this strategic plan. So what I would like to chat a little bit about is, where in your jurisdiction do you see the Regional Housing Partnership playing a role, let's say in the next 10 years? Or where do you see your housing needs in the next 10 years? Or where do you see the affordable housing in the next 10 years? Because this information will be helpful for us to create our strategic plan, which then will add a value proposition to your jurisdiction. So, you know, Stacy, you're to my right, so I'm going to start with you first, if you don't mind. Lucky you, huh?
Oh, that's great.
So what is your crystal ball saying?
And it's actually perfect. I was reading, I'm gonna probably go out of line here, but I just saw one of the questions.
It's just the five of us. It's okay.
Up in the chat and asking about the housing needs for seniors and how those are being specifically met today. And that is one thing that I think really needs to be addressed moving forward. So really looking specifically at which groups in our communities have the most needs for affordable housing and how to address those. And seniors are definitely one of the groups that we lack affordable housing for in the county. And so looking at ways over the next 10 years and how can we increase affordable housing for seniors? How can we provide more affordable housing for persons experiencing homelessness and bring those supportive services in? Looking at increasing the number of accessible units in the county to provide housing options for persons that have disabilities, whether they need wheelchair ramps outside, they need the reinforced walls in the bathrooms in order to install handrails, grab bars in the future. I think that's one of the directions I think we will be looking at over the next 10 years. And then really figuring out how we're going to fit more people into the county as population is expected to grow. So
Thank you, Stacy. And I'm going to try to weave in some of these questions that's coming on the feed. So folks, if you ask questions on the feed, we'll try to go on the chat. We'll try to work them in. Jim, Greene County, where do you see things going? What's your crystal ball saying, and how can we help?
Well, in Greene County, I think the main focus is going to stay the same. Trying to create local job opportunities is one of the best ways we can stimulate and create opportunities for affordable housing. We don't have any age-specific projects. We did just approve senior residential apartments, which is a new housing type for the county. But our main focus from a housing standpoint and our goals are just to have a diversity of housing and have an inventory available of housing to support appropriate plans within our growth area, not to create any barriers that would limit people's ability to follow the plan and build the home housing in our growth area. Also, simultaneously, we're working on a zoning update. One of the key components requested was to create a sense of place and a sense of community in the Ruckersville area. And as I mentioned earlier, some of those concepts come at a cost. So creating a sense of place, a sense of community, oftentimes even just making things affordable by having the ability to have pedestrian interconnectivity makes housing more expensive. Might be cheaper because you can walk, but there's a cost to all those things that create a sense of place. So we're struggling with some of our zoning initiatives moving forward. As far as the regional housing partnership, continued support in keeping us as part of the regional discussion, tied into the regional planning, opportunities with grants, data support, and networking are all the continued things that we hope for and expect from the housing partnership.
And be careful what you ask for. I might come see you. So
That'd be great.
I'd love to go out there. I'll grab a cup of coffee over at, what is it, Murphy's, I think, out that way? There you
Lovely.
go. Douglas, Fluvanna County, or my home county, what is your crystal ball seeing from your perspective, and how can we help you at the Regional Housing Partnership?
Yeah, sure, Keith. So basically right now, we, as you know, Lake Monticello is 50 plus years old. So it's an aging, well-maintained community or neighborhood grouping of neighborhoods. But this winter and early spring, we worked with the Planning Commission about seniors being able to age in place and to make upgrades, like Stacy said, to their homes for now or for the next 5-10 years from now as they age. But right now in outlying areas or areas where a family might live, we do have the accessory dwelling unit option. That they can be have a mother-in-law or a mother, or even we've had interest in an older brother or sister coming and living with near their family. So that's a really good short-term option for us since we have such limited availability for other housing types. So, but our crystal ball really looks at, as Jim said, of having senior apartments that are dedicated to that. We've had some groups come to us in the last couple of years since I've been here that would like to do that housing product. So we're excited about that. But yeah, generally, and then finally, one of our main developers here in the county is doing more multi-generational first floor living homes that allow, rather than doing the age 55 and older restricted area where folks are all in one area, that they might live with their family, with their children, and the grandma and grandpa right down the street or in the next neighborhood around the corner. So I think it's a good approach that we're looking at, but we definitely have a lot of aging baby boomers, and then eventually a lot of us are Gen Xers. Eventually in 10-20 years, we're going to be there right there with them. So we gotta pretend like it's us, and we're planning for us as well. So I guess that's the best way to put it, Keith. Thanks.
And Stacy was laughing when you said aging baby boomers, by the way, because I knew exactly what she was thinking when you were looking at me. But for those who don't know, I'm a real estate agent. I'm in the real estate space, and one of the largest growing buyer profile is multi-generational homes. It's a product, or it's a type of home or type of buyer that's moving forward. Alex, what does your crystal ball say for the city, my friend?
Well, our comprehensive plan changes. It's a pretty big step forward, and making some changes so that ADU, can be easily approved if you have ample space for it. The city is looking at expanding opportunity for the development of affordable housing, especially for folks at 50% AMI, 30% AMI, and things like that. And more importantly, we need more investment in housing, because when you are dealing with issues or challenges that poor people cannot provide for themselves, it's gonna cost money. So this, which is a dollar bill, is gonna be needed, whether it's in the city of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, or region-wise, as part of the solutions. we need to lean on the state and the federal government, so they can help leverage funding, for local government to address the housing issues, because it's no longer a local problem. The housing issue is now a national issue. A lot of communities in the United States are grappling with a housing crisis. So we're going to need a combination of assistance from the state and the federal government to address the affordable housing issue. They need to fund the National Housing Trust Fund instead of giving it a lip service. In terms of strategic plan, what you guys can do for us and the region. Two things. One is transportation, and the other is land use. To help, coordinate a pretty good land use policies reinforced by transportation, public transportation, because I think land use and transportation inform each other. So whether it's in the county, Albemarle County, city of Charlottesville, Greene County, Louisa, or what have you, we need a regional housing network supported by a public transportation system, because the way we are going right now, we're going to be looking at the regional housing element as part of the solutions to affordable housing.
Thanks, Alex. One of the things I heard out of that was maybe the regional housing partnership and the regional transportation partnership should probably collaborate a little bit more. So thank you for sharing that. Hey, Ian, if you wouldn't take a note in here, when I was writing notes, somebody asked in the feed about seeing if we could come up with a comprehensive list of what's currently and planned on that. I think that'd be a great little project for us to tackle. So Doug, I'm just reading through the feed, through the chat here a little bit. There was a little bit of request to explain a little bit more about the credit, for lack of a better term, over with the apartment complex out in Colonial Circle. That came about because the developer or the builder reached out to the county and asked, hey, is there some way to help so they could keep the price down, the rents down? Does that sound about how that process went?
Sure, yes. I'm not the expert. Stacy probably does it a lot more, but I'll tell you from my perspective. Well, I can tell you from our perspective for other localities that may be similar in the similar boat that we're in right now, but I'll just touch upon it and then maybe let her expand. But yeah, so the developer, when they came to us and they did a lot of their research ahead of time, they just could not create a market rate development in our census tracts and in our that type of approach. So they worked with us here at the county for quite a long time in housing folks that do the and we've come up with a low income house tax credit of a 10-year performance agreement for rather most of the time I think they're 15. So so the taxes basically are deferred for 10 years, and then throughout the time frame that they go on in the project and before they when they do the low income tax credit, investors purchase those. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to Stacy because we're learning about it, and but the main thing I will say for us that in Greene and Fluvanna, maybe we do have these issues where we have people asking, well, why are you giving people tax credits when they could maybe just move into, they can't move into that. They're right at they're in like what we call the drive to qualify phase for even an apartment. And so, rather than having people drive out of Fluvanna and to live in Albemarle and then commute back into work at the high school as a teacher or something, that's what we're trying to avoid and keep our resident, make people have an opportunity to reside here and work here, play and do everything. So that's basically kind of where we're at, and we're I think we're progressing quite well through that. We'll explain more of it to our residents as we go on. But I'll kind of defer to others on who've been more experienced through the whole process, but we're about halfway through it now, and we're gonna go well.
So Stacy, just to pick up on that a little bit, there's another question in the feed. What strategies or what tools can be used to help get rentals down to the 30% AMI? Would this be a tool? Would this be something that could help get there? And I think to play off of Alex's statement, I think cash is also going to help that. But is this a tool that could possibly help?
I think it would be one of many. The biggest reason it's difficult to build housing for 30% AMI households is because the rental income that is needed to pay off the bills and to pay for the construction and the mortgages on the buildings and everything else just isn't there. You can't collect it from the households that have no money, or basically no money to pay rent. So it requires a whole lot of subsidy that over a long period of time that local governments just don't have. That's why public housing authorities, where they can get millions and millions of dollars each year to manage public housing and build it from the federal government, that's why they have historically been the organizations that are best placed to provide housing for extremely low income households. That said, you could use low-income housing tax credit and local financing to build housing that is affordable to that 40 to 60% AMI range, and then use housing choice vouchers or some other type of rental subsidy, which would allow some extremely low-income households to move into the units. But being able to build housing for extremely low-income households is just super difficult. It just takes too much money.
So I'm going to throw this out to everybody. This was a question that came in the feed, and this is something that I personally want to know is, I use this term turning red tape into green tape. Everybody in this space realizes that there's a little bit of red tape, a little bit to make this happen. So I'm just going to throw it out to whoever wants to jump in. What can we do to help streamline some of this? For those who are not aware, according to the National Home Builders Association, about 25% of new construction is cost due to red tape or regulation or whatever. But how can we help streamline this from each jurisdiction's perspective? And whoever wants to jump in first, that would be great. If not, I'll call on somebody. And I apologize. I'm in my office, folks are working for the background noise, so I apologize for that.
I think making changes to land use regulations, we go a long way in terms of that, which is one of the things our comprehensive plan and the zoning rewrite, are intended to do. And as some of you may know, the comprehensive plan that the Planning Commission acted on last week, on October 12th, you received the extensive and varying public feedback. Probably there was a time that we were getting more than 1,000 emails. And the reason being that there were several very serious but practical changes that were being proposed. That will reduce the development red tapes. For instance, if you have a single lot and that single lot can accommodate additional two units, you can do that by right. Right now you can't, and we feel that that's going to provide opportunity, for folks to easily develop their properties. And of course, the issue of whether you're going to have a monster building next to a single family home, that's going to be addressed, as part of our zoning rewrite. So we're going to make everything as much as possible, to make sure that the development consistent with residential quality of the areas. So we are looking at making those changes, and that changes in comprehensive plan and land use regulation. Certainly we go a long way in terms of minimizing the delays and the review process.
Stacy, streamlining in Albemarle County, what does that look like from your perspective?
That's a good question, and I don't want to speak out of line, so I'm not going to get
Sure.
in my area. So I'm not gonna step on the planning department's toes.
Sure.
But I think some of the things that we're looking at doing are really making things very clear. So making sure that what we are looking for from developers is very clear. There's no confusion. So everything, and that will stop a lot of back and forth, right? So there oftentimes a developer will submit plans. The county reviews them, we send those back, and there's a lack of clarity or misunderstanding on both sides. So developers don't actually know, they created a plan based on how they interpreted our current comprehensive plan and zoning code, and apparently they got some of that wrong. And they may not understand what the planners are talking about. So really being very clear and intentional on what we are looking for in our future developments, so that we don't have a lot of that back and forth. I think that's one of the biggest steps, but also looking at making sure that the comprehensive plan and what is put in there is actually supported by the zoning code. I think our zoning code was written in maybe 1980, 1984, and has not been comprehensively reviewed since then. And so over time, as we've amended the zoning code to address one issue, it's all become a bit disjointed from the comprehensive plan. So really looking to bring those two documents back together.
So connecting the two documents, the zoning ordinances and the comprehensive plan is always a good thing.
Yes.
Jim, Greene County, I mean, you guys seems the path's a little simpler in Greene County. Why is that? And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think Stacy hit the nail on the head. When you look at the Code of Virginia, comprehensive planning is required. The only purpose identified for the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance is to make the comprehensive plan achievable. Those are the steps to make the comprehensive plan a reality. So a lot of times when you get to a public hearing, when you get to a review, some of the concerns from neighbors, some of the concerns that are expressed might be in opposition to the area identified in the comprehensive plan. And you have to stick to the purpose of the comprehensive plan and the purpose of the ordinance, which is to encourage and make it simple to build in the areas where the citizens have identified that they want that growth to occur. So if it meets those goals, it's in that area, it should be as easy as possible with minimal encouragement towards health, safety, and welfare. If it's outside of those areas, then that's where a lot of those additional concerns about density, appropriateness really come into play. So in Greene, our practice has been to identify those projects that are within the growth area, within the comprehensive plan goals, and to try and avoid any unnecessary regulations that would prohibit people from being able to achieve those goals.
So there's a third component to this conversation. It's the subdivision or the site plan ordinance and the subdivision ordinances. And to go to Stacy's point, it's really those three documents need to be reading the same way, because sometimes the subdivision or the site plan portion of it does contradict a little bit the zoning side of it. So Doug, I know our county well. You want to kind of tackle that subject, or how can we do something a little different in Fluvanna County? Don't we have like a set time frame of like 6 or 8 weeks to review something? Is that, memory serves me right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, Keith. We all in all subdivision ordinances, like you said, we have the different time frames of review periods of 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, and we follow we also try to have our health department or our VDOT representatives follow those submittal timeframes. So we all are on one team on the technical review committee for, reviewing rezonings or site plans or subdivisions. So yes, but I guess the main thing that I would like to point out is what Jim and Stacy talked about, is that we're really trying to, in our current comprehensive plan that we're working on, we have 150 pages of information of almost like a design guidelines, standard planning things. If I were a developer walking into Fluvanna, Palmyra to come develop, I want to pick up a document that's about 40 to 50 pages. Look at it, it's simple. It says, yeah, this is area that I've got 50, 100 acres of land. This is where I want to be. Okay, it says it calls for 2.9 dwelling units per acre. I've got to bring water and sewer there, or what have you, do some road improvements. So those are the kind of things that they want to know right away, and how are they going to do that and work with us, and we're going to work with them. So, are there things that infrastructure is really important for us right now? And then also, like we've talked about earlier, is if that area is not appropriate, as Jim said, then where is it? And so we need to work with them to, look at considering options to develop in the Zion Crossroads area, or we're even working from a commercial industrial standpoint to be working down in Fork Union in the center of the county, and then have housing grow up and be around there for employee workforce housing in that area as well. So yeah, we do have timeframes, and we honor those as best as possible, and work with the consultants and developers to make it happen. And when we do identify that there are some issues going on, we try to address those right away, because the planning process and zoning process can be complicated, and we don't want it to be so. So thanks.
So what I'm hearing is communication, right? Education. Is there a way that the strategic plan that we're working on for regional housing partnership, what I'm hearing is there may be a path here that we can help all of our jurisdictions, because those who are not familiar with the concept of the regional housing partnership, to Stacy's dismay, she does not like this term, but we kind of have the 4 pillars of the healthy housing system. So at the table, we have the jurisdictions, which is you guys, we have the nonprofits, we have the for-profits, and we have the people who we serve, which I feel is the most important of the pillars on that. So it seems like we might be built to help that along a little bit. So that was good for my ears anyway. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, and there's a pretty high level question in here that I've been wanting to tackle for quite some time. And hopefully we have enough time to talk about it. I get asked this question as the chair of the Regional Housing Partnership all the time. What is affordable housing? What does that mean? Right? I don't know if we're going to be able to answer all this, because I think it means different things to different people. But Alex, if you want to kind of see what you could do with that and tackle it a little bit and see if we can help.
It's affordable housing. It's a very contentious subject. I think we usually look at the definition from HUD. Something is affordable if you're paying 30% of your income on housing and housing related expenses. So that's more or less a universal definition. And then of course, some communities, due to their challenges, affordable housing challenges, they always try to coin their own definition of affordable housing, and most of the time it breaks down because they can never arrive at a conclusion. So we focus on application of the definition, using the definition provided by U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. A lot of people can have all kind of outlook on the definition, but I think that definition, at least is certified, and a lot of things are based on that particular definition.
So that's the HUD definition that you talked about, Alex. So thank you. But Stacy, you want to try to tackle that question a little bit or not? Because I've asked this question all the time, and it means different things to different people. And I need some help on how to explain this to folks. So can you give me any help here?
Well, I mean, Alex was really right when he said, you go towards the official HUD definition of affordable housing is housing that costs no more than 30% of household income, which makes housing affordability really personal and individual, right? So what is affordable to a household earning $900 a month is going to be different than a household earning $9,000 a month. Which means that as local governments, when we look at how to define affordable housing, we really focus on area median incomes. And we generally target households with incomes at or below 80% of area median income, which I think currently in the Charlottesville region is a household income of $74,000, somewhere around there a year. And if you have housing that for that, then you can find ways to get people into those units at lower incomes, whether that is through housing choice vouchers, low income housing tax credits. And so you target a group that is qualified to rent affordable housing or purchase affordable housing units, and then find ways to assist them to get into them. But if you define it as 30% of household income, then you're never going to have a definition. I mean, that's the easy definition for and it just becomes very individual and personal.
Yeah, so I'll push back just a little bit. I think that 30% is kind of a misnomer of a number because it doesn't include utilities, it doesn't include living expense, certain like living expenses, heating and cooling bills. But it's just something that and it was in the feed. It's something that's always on my notes to kind of tackle. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Keith,
go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I think in terms of these definitions, because people have been constantly asking about the definition, and maybe the current definition that HUD uses, maybe we have outlived that definition. Maybe they need to revisit that definition and make some adjustment, really.
Or is that something we should tackle as a regional housing partnership? Because I think, and Douglas and Jim, jump in, please, here. And we only got a couple minutes left because Ian's looking at me. So that means we're about ready to wrap up at 1 o'clock. But does affordable housing mean something different in your jurisdictions than maybe the city of Charlottesville? And does it make any sense for us to try to tackle this? I might be just been unvoted as chair here after this conversation. But you want to jump in, gentlemen, what your thoughts are on that topic? Or not? Jim? I think Jim froze up. Nope, Jim's still there.
I'm still here. I think, the definition is useful for making policy, but isn't useful for every individual. If somebody's making $35,000 a year, affordability is, a nice concept that doesn't seem real. Yeah. If you're making $150,000 a year, you probably have a skewed perspective of affordability. Just as an example, I know someone that I know graduated with a degree and started with a $55,000 salary, which isn't anything to sneeze at, and they could barely meet the criteria of affordable housing on an apartment in Hampton, Virginia. So it's really dependent on the job opportunities and the individuals and their level within the employment.
Thanks, Jim. You want to add anything to this topic, Douglas?
Yeah, I'd like to say in the closing, I guess, something that I think we talked about 6 months to a year ago, maybe, I'm not sure, but working with our elected officials here in Fluvanna County, every year we hold prior to in late November before the holidays start. We try to let our delegates and senators that are going to Richmond and working on policy and procedures, working with the Home Builders Association. I think it's really important for all of us to work together to understand the needs of everyone involved in affordable housing, so that we can work on those issues. And I think that was something that you all at the Regional Housing Partnership had as part of some of your additional documents to work on once before. And I'd really like to see us all as a Charlottesville region work with Richmond better, or what have you. So
Couldn't think of a better way to wrap up. We're literally about 30 seconds away from the end. I'm getting the finger count from Ian over here. So look, this is why we all love what we do here, and this is why we love the Regional Housing Partnership. And I'm going to let Ian wrap up on the next coming series, speaker series we have. I want to offer my personal thank you to everybody here. I know you guys are very busy. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And, thank you for helping moving this needle a little forward. I mean, I'd like to see it move forward faster, but we're all collectively moving this needle forward. So thank you very much, Ian. I'm going to put myself on mute and let you, and I apologize for not getting to everybody's questions. There was a ton of them there. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Keith, for moderating this event. I'd like to briefly thank Stacy, Alex, Douglas, and Jim. I just want to, thank you so much for participating. I feel like it was a really informative discussion. We have a few upcoming events. Our next one before the new year is on November 16th. It's a Rural Housing Challenges and Solutions event. So we're going to be looking specifically at rural housing. And later next year, we're going to be having a discussion on missing middle housing in January, and discussion with some organizations, some faith-based organizations doing affordable housing work in the region in February. So we really love for everyone to participate and or come and see those. And with that, I think we're done here. So everyone have a great day, and thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.